One of my favorite things to read with the first season was us being back in school again. You see Dustin in his new getup, in his little emo phase, which we've all had. Oh God, cut him some slack. Fun costume to get into. And the first time you see his wonderful mullet, the extensions that became the bane of my existence for a year. It's a good combo. Hi Teen Vogue, I'm Gaten Matarazzo, and these are some of my firsts. First day on set, season 5. You know what's crazy? I forget what we were filming. I do remember the first day of the table read, though. The first day of the table read is usually when everybody's back and guaranteed to be in one room together. And I remember that was a very exciting day. We were all waiting for quite some time, so we were stoked. My first audition for Stranger Things, I do remember more than a lot of auditions, particularly because it was not a very good one.
Gaten Matarazzo, and I'm 12 years old. This is probably the most serious, most important thing ever.
I wasn't memorized like I should have been, and I'm usually very good about not needing to look at my sides. I rarely would ever bring them into the room with me, and for some reason, this one I would get tripped up, and I look down at the sides. Like there's even like the video that's like online of my first audition. I'm like looking down at the script. I'm like, why did they call me back? But I'm glad they did, because now we're here. First person I call when I get good news, my girlfriend Lizzie, and then my mom and my dad, and they would both be probably sad to hear that I called Lizzie first. The first line I said as Dustin on set is, "We're in deep shit."
We're in deep shit.
I think it's "we're in deep shit" because we find out the demogorgon's there, but it could be like Cash Protection or Troglodytes or something like that, talking about D&D, but that's one that I specifically remember. The first time I saw the demogorgon, I think, was in just concept art, but we did see a full model of it because there was Mark, the actor, who was in the full demogorgon suit. So there was a full demogorgon suit that we actually got to see what the demogorgon would look like. It was pretty extensive too. It looked really great. So it looked quite accurate to what it ended up looking like. But I think the first time I saw it fully animated was when we first screened the first 2 episodes during the filming process. We actually got to watch the first 2 before going for our break in December, which is crazy because we started filming in the beginning of October. I don't know how they edited that so quickly. It's nuts to me. First time I broke character on the first take we did, probably. I remember that whole first day we were just a wreck. We couldn't get through anything without laughing. I specifically remember having so much fun during it, and I can imagine that we had way more fun than the crew there, who were like, they're never gonna get through this season if they can't get it together now on day 1. Oh, Finn sneezed during a line and tried to keep it together, and it was very funny because he was in intense monologue mode, where he's in DM mode, and he's like talking about the shadow growing on the wall behind us and swallowing us in darkness, and then he sneezed and he looked up like that, but he kept going, and it was quite delightful. Very funny.
Any funny moments from this season?
Oh, plenty of funny moments this season. There's a scene where Lucas is confronting a not very nice person, and he and the actor, Clay, who plays this person, Andy, are actually pretty close, and they just got the giggles at some point. So there's me in the back needing to look angry, and he and Clay just laughing for some reason. Something talking about his private parts, which is probably where the laughing stemmed from. Classic dudes. First time I felt connected to Dustin as a character, I think the first time I felt connected to Dustin as a character was probably the chemistry read in the first process of auditioning for the show, because he hadn't really been figured out yet, and there was one scene that they knew was going to be in there where in the first season Mike and Lucas have a bit of a falling out, and Dustin does his best to try to get the party to make amends, and has this monologue where he reflects on a campaign that went horribly wrong for them, and he does so with gusto and with lots of profanity. And I had a blast doing it, and it wasn't what I think anybody really expected the scene to be like, and Matt and Ross seemed to like it quite a bit. I just thought he had to be so high energy, and I don't think they knew that's what it was going to be. And I think that's kind of what started the idea that Dustin had a potty mouth, was the way that I ended up doing that scene. I'm not sure. I think they just thought it was really funny the way that I said shit. And they just thought it was funny seeing me say it, so they just made me say it a bunch. I think what makes me very similar to Dustin is that I always had this ease that because it's a character that's being made from scratch, that if I'm really present and something comes up that I wasn't really aware of, or I'm just trying to respond and listen, then I could respond quite naturally, and I wouldn't necessarily have to be so embedded in a character that wasn't a whole lot like me that when I reacted, it didn't come as a surprise, and I wouldn't need to figure out something new. I just would react accordingly to the way I probably would have, or not even how I would have, but just reacting as myself. And that kind of shaped him throughout the years. So I think there's a lot of overlap between us. First time I met Joe, I think, was the table read for the first season. He also read as Troy the Bully, because the actor who played Troy the Bully had not arrived on set yet. So we actually got to have some lines together for that. And I just thought it was so cool. We didn't know we were going to be working together the next season. So felt cool older brother from the very beginning. And it was always so great with us when we were starting out. He was very funny and very good with us as kids, and made it a very inviting environment in a setting that could be potentially stressful for people that young. He made a lot of fun, always. First fan theories, some of them are wild. And I love the passion involved, but I do read some and I'm like, probably not a screenwriter. That is fine, because I'm not either, so no judgment. There's one about vampires. People think vampires are going to be a part of the show, or that like people are going to come back to life as vampires. I'm like, what is happening? I don't know. If we go down that road, there's no coming back. So I don't think that it would be controversial for me to suggest that there aren't vampires in the show. I don't know if that would be something that Matarazzo would be upset in me revealing that. Sadly, this is not taking that type of turn. Yeah, sorry to the Twilight fans out there. They wanted that crossover so bad. I know they did. Oh, day one. I saw myself in a meme the second the show came out. There's a really good one of me smiling. I smile with my whole face, as I like to say. I smile with my eyes, I smile with my mouth, with my cheeks, everything. And somebody put a side-by-side picture of me smiling when Nancy shuts the door in my face next to a leather couch. It is objectively quite funny. And I even found it funny when I still look like that. And I guess I still do. Lesson that I've learned is, so it's not really like a consistent, usually when I do walk around, a lot of people recognize me from the show. And usually when I'm out and about, people will stop if they do recognize me. So that's usually a daily occurrence, especially because I live in New York City, so there's a lot of people. So it's just something that just inevitably happens. Sometimes, especially when I was younger, eventually it would get a little frustrating if I was either really busy or it just happened a bunch, or if I was tired or just not in the best mood. But something I have to remember is that like that's not something that they would experience every day. And I have to, like, there's a lot of people who I admire and whose work that I like, that if I saw on the street, I would stop and say hello. And it's just something I remember. I'm like, then I don't want to like have them, send them on their way with an experience that makes them feel like I would have ruined a part of the show for them. So I try to be as gracious and open, and I'd like to talk to everybody and get to know them, and try to make that a pretty good experience for people who walk up. I don't want to be necessarily unpleasant in a courteous exchange, that people are nice enough to say they like me in a show that they watch, which is a very nice compliment. I don't think it really settled in. I don't think it necessarily has still, because I was quite young. And when you're very young, I say this a lot, I'm sure people get annoyed by me saying this, but it's not, you normalize your environment. Anything around you is normal because it's just your situation, and you don't really have perspective to know what's normal and what isn't until you reach your adulthood. And I probably still haven't hit that point yet. It hasn't really necessarily settled in, but I knew that the group had become, I guess, public figures when social media became, I had to turn off notifications on my Instagram for when people would like my pictures and such, because it was just become quite that, because people started doing it more, because more people were engaging with my personal social media accounts because people like the show. And at first I was like, I want to talk to everybody. I would answer every DM. I would respond to comments. I would try to engage as much, because I just found it very flattering that people were that liked the show enough to engage. And then that became, sometimes it would be not as healthy. And sometimes when I was 13, I wouldn't recognize that adults messaging me on DMs is not appropriate, and that I shouldn't necessarily be responding to those adults, even if they didn't mean any harm by it. They just wanted to talk to somebody in a show that they liked. It's still inappropriate to do that. And so I kind of learned to take a step back from that. And I guess that's the first time that I would consider me recognizing that, I don't like the word famous, but that there was something adjacent to it. I have a really easy time getting up for work days which I think is a product of me being very lucky to be in a career that I love very much. Very lucky to be doing something that I love. So anytime, even on an early morning, I do well when I have to get up very early, and I look forward to a long day. I struggle to get up when I don't have much to do that day. But on a day I'm filming, coffee's a must for sure. I usually make my coffee at home. I just drink black coffee that I make at home. I don't like to do the pods because I know I'm gonna have multiple cups, so I still have a pot and the filters and such. So I usually make enough for like a cup or two, and then I just drink black coffee. And I've been a nighttime shower recently, so it's I drink coffee, enjoy a bit of a morning. I usually rush. I usually do doom scroll until half an hour before I have to leave, and then I will. It's YouTube. I don't know why half of my entertainment / information, which sometimes should be separate. I think a lot of times could. Sometimes it's cool when it can be both, but sometimes it should be separate. I am deep within that algorithm. It is a lot of, I'm a hockey nut, so it's a lot of hockey podcasts and current event stuff, which is a weird mix. Lots of stand-up, watch a lot of stand-up comedy. I like to find comedians that I rather enjoy through, because some of the best stuff is usually they're promoting it independently on their own platforms. So there's a lot of great ones I like. Thank you very much, Teen Vogue, for having me. These were some of my firsts.